Okay guys, welcome to the continuation of this training that's called Upgrading to Foundation, where I'm going to be teaching you how to save up to 3 times the amount of code you write and actually write cleaner, faster code even as a beginner. Also, I'm going to be showing how anyone can take an average plugin and turn it into an absolute beast using our foundational system. And as someone who spent over tens of thousands of hours coding Minecraft plugins, in this mini-series I'll actually do a full code review of a plugin that I've chosen, and we will be upgrading it to use Maven, which is a build tool to help us compile code into something you can run, and using Foundation system. This is after spending tens of thousands of hours coding. I've created something called the Foundation. It is not just any other library. It is a complete system. It combines Maven, it combines code, it combines, the whole ecosystem to build plugins faster. And if you haven't watched the first video, please do, because I'll be showing you how I literally went from 1,400 lines into 500 lines with the same code, the same features, literally the same plugin, just better. So let's just continue this video where we left it last time, and in today's lesson we will dive deep about and we'll talk about data storage, how you can store files. This plugin will store the following information about every single player. It's gonna store kills of the player, how many times the player killed someone, how many times the player died, and then I think this is called kill streak. So let's just refactor it. Guys, don't call your variables like this. It's super confusing. And this is also the kill to death ratio. And then the original author has public static fields here, which I didn't notice they were used somewhere. Typically what I noticed that we had calls to these methods, and then these methods reset kill streak. And so there's a couple of things wrong with this class. You don't have to store sorted kills here because it's gonna be out of sync. You actually have to do the calculation every single time. You can have a cache system, you can put these into a cache, but this is not how to do it, and implementing a cache is just an enormously complex project, and it's fine, you don't have to. We have a cache set up in our reflection URL, so if you're advanced you can open up that URL class and you can actually see the cache of classes and things, and you can just scroll and see where it's used and how it's used. But for 99% of you guys, you don't need a cache and you don't need to store it in there. It's just gonna cause out of sync problems when you will put something in here but you will forget to update the cache. So that's that. Also, we don't have to store a kill to death ratio. That's also needing to be calculated all the time using the calc KDR method that's supposed to be down there, that we put down there. And so you don't have to rely on a map here that may or may not be up to date. And the biggest problem I see is that static is used, and then this class used to actually be in the main plugin class here, and the person clearly doesn't understand how static interferes with non-static. So I'm not saying this system is broken, it doesn't work, it's just very ineffective memory-wise. And in old bucket versions, it would not even clear properly when you would reload it. I do think they've solved it a couple of years ago, so now it's gonna clean as it should be, but it's still just a very poor structure. Never combine static. If you have static field, you should avoid calling it in a non-static method. If your whole setup of your class is non-static, these methods are non-static. Literally 99% of methods are non-static, and this field must not be static, and then you can just turn it into a private field and you don't have to set the hash map here. You can just call the base method, the base class, private, and then you can use it in here. And that's not how we're going to be using it. How we're going to be using it is that we're actually going to be extending a YAML config not simple YAML config, as you guys know from previous videos. And if you did not watch previous videos, come on, what are you doing here? You don't understand. You will not have anything from this training. You have to go and watch the first video and then complete the training in the sequential order. So we're going to make this extend a YAML config class, which is a helping class to keep us organized with the files. And then instead of storing all the things here, what I'll actually do is I'll actually have a class here that's gonna be a static class, player data. And that class, it's gonna hold the data in a map, but the map is not gonna hold the same things. It's not gonna hold the same. It's gonna get the category. It's gonna hold the things by the category, and then we know that each of those is an integer, so it's gonna hold the data this way. And then we can just have, yeah, and also for reference purposes, I noticed that you have to store player name here. I'm gonna show you why later. And so there's really just two things we need to do. We can then set something. We can set the category to an amount, which is really just putting it here and then overriding it. And then also what we can do, we can check if the category is killstreak, and if it is, and then we gonna get let me just finish the method first before I can use it. We can get our default the category, and if it was not stored here, then we will simply return 0. So if it is a kill streak and the top kill streak is less than the amount we want to set, we actually want to update the top kill streak. It's a cool feature that I want you guys to have. I do think the original plugin had something along the lines here, but it was way over complicated. That's it. And if category is saving to file, we need to save the file. And I'm going to show you how you can save it to file. So what we're going to do with this full class, we're going to create something called a singleton. So what a singleton does, it stores the instance, it stores the new statistics class in here, and it is impossible to create the new instance from anywhere else. Why? Because we have a private statistics constructor in which I'm gonna load the configuration. It doesn't have any default file inside the jar, and we're going to place it in the data.db file, which is also stored in the fo constants class, file, and then data. And that is the file in which we typically put our custom things in. If I open up the plugin, you'll see it not here. In here, the data file. And here you can see there's a bunch of things here. And the metadata is actually saved by Foundation if you use an older Minecraft version to maintain compatibility. And then that's pretty much it. Now we can call the instance, and we can just save it on the instance. And we can also create a useful method that's gonna add just one number to the given category. So it's gonna set the category, it's gonna get it, it's gonna increase it by 1 if the player dies, for example. That's it. So we have the set, the get method, and we can also copy the calculate kill to death ratio. We can put it up here. And then the kills here. So again, one letter is not a good way to name your variables. Kills, and then deaths. There we go. And we can get kills, and then we can get deaths. And then I don't like using double floats. I like to use double. This has better precision, and in this context it is pretty much irrelevant. Just go with double. It is most commonly used. I think float nowadays is only used when communicating over the internet, because then you are going to send less data to save bandwidth. But inside of your plugin, it is okay just to stick with floats. Oh, not floats, with doubles, sorry. And so if you're gonna get the kills, cast it to double. This is gonna cast the integer to double automatically, I think. Same for deaths, and then we're gonna calculate the ratio. As per the method that's here, that the original user has. So weird, I cannot speak today. Okay, so that's that. And also there's a useful method that I'm going to show you later. It's called toItem, and we have to finish it off later in the video about menus. That's going to be the next video. So here, how we want this to be saved is, I want to go into this data file, and here I want to save it into statistics, and then obviously it's going to be my UUID, and then it's going to get kills 1, deaths 1, for example, but maybe not like this. Maybe I want to put it nicely, and then it's going to be working this way for every single player. Now you can actually take this full block and make this block represent this player data snippet. The way you do it is you make this implement config serializable, and now you will simply instruct Java to find an easy way to turn this class into something you can save in here, and then how to convert this section of a config back into player data. So we need two methods. First, we need the serialize method that's going to instruct Java to put data from this class into our file, and we can just put in a serialized map, which works just like hash map, but a little bit better from the foundation. And then we can put the name of the player. But up here, what we need to do is we actually need to iterate through the entries. And this is going to be the category and the levels or points. And for each category, if we're saving it to file, we're going to put it. So entry, get key, or maybe, you know what, I hate the application of code, so I'm just gonna put category here, and then entry, get key, and then if is saving to file, we're gonna go into item, util, and then boundify capitalize method. That's gonna turn the enumeration into a bottom case. Oh, which we actually don't want. We want okay, boundify. No, we need to retain the underscores if we want to save it. That's not a good way. So we can just stick with saving the category name as a string. And then the value. And that should work. Now we need to instruct Java by creating a static method that's going to turn this map from the config back into this class. And guess what? It's called deserialize. And it's going to take in the serialize map that we created right here, and it's just going to turn this into player data. So we can get the player data, and we can create a new player data class, which we need to set a required args constructor for. And now inside we need to put the string that was the name of the player, and then here we can just iterate again through entries. And that is not going to give us the category, it's going to only give us the string because we save it as a string, and then the object, and we need to actually cast the object to an integer. Entry set. And then here you actually need to remove the name, otherwise it's not going to work, because it's going to try to convert the name into a category. Then we need to convert it into a string. It's a kind of a hacky way I found to be working. So data.put, data is the name of the class. Maybe it is unfortunately spelled here. Maybe I need to put the player data instead, not just data. No, I want, what is IntelliJ doing? I want to rename this player data. Okay, great. So player data and then the data map inside of the class. And then we're gonna put the string as a category. So what you can do, you can call reflection needle lookup enum, and then this is gonna be the category class, and then the entry key. And then this will turn the key into the category using our helper methods. It's better than calling category then and then value of, because it has optimizations. If you put kills here or kills, it doesn't matter. It's gonna find the right key automatically. And then we're gonna put the integer here, so parse int get value, and then we need to put the value to string. And that's how it works. And then what else do we need to do in this class? So up here we have loaded it, and now you need to override a method called onLoadFinish, in which you can just do things after we've loaded the file. So we can actually store a map here similarly to these maps, which, by the way, this is supposed to be UUID. You can check it out down here. It says UUID, but it uses strings for some weird reason. So I'm gonna actually be using UUIDs here, and then I'm gonna be using player data, and we will have player data map here instead of having multiple maps. It's a better system than to having multiple maps here. And then we're gonna load it by calling the getMap on the statistics key, as I explained here, and we're gonna take every single key here, and we know that the key is the UUID. You can actually specify it here, and the value, because you've implemented config serializable to the player data class, you can just put the value as the class, and Foundation will automatically detect this. It will automatically call deserialize method for each section, and it's gonna work like magic. It took us tons of work. We're actually building this system since 2018, so that's why it is so profound, because it took us more than 3 years to build it. And then likewise, you need a method to save the data. This also implements config serializable, although you cannot see it because YAML config implements it. So we can just override it. And then here, all we save is the statistics, and then we can save the full player data map. You don't have to iterate through map and save each value. Foundation will do it for you, and Foundation will then call the serialize method for each player data instance. How cool is that? Saves you a lot of time. And then we need a method to remove an offline player from the class if it exists. And then you can call this save, and it's gonna save. When you call save, it's gonna save the file. Before it saves the file, it's gonna call serialize, which is gonna save all of this. So it's fully automated. And then up here, I notice we actually need to get the player data as sorted, which is down here. And the person, what he does, he literally has the same code once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, which is just unnecessary. The only thing that's different is the comparison, and then probably, yeah, the thing we want to compare and sort. The rest of it is just the same, so it's not a good setup. I mean, these are also different, but still, like the basic logic is duplicated. You should always avoid duplication. So here, what I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna get sorted, and we can use the category sorted by. That's it, and we can create a duplicated list, sorted data, and we can clone what we have here. We can clone all the values in the map. We can return it, but before we do, we need to go to collections, and we need to sort the data by the comparator. And for the comparator, we don't actually need to create an anonymous class. You can actually convert this into lambda, and it's going to convert the x and y into, let me show you, all of this, x and y. And we can even, we can even replace it by comparing integers and then entry get value. But this is not very easy to see with your eyes. It's better to see it this way. And this is how we can compare things. So likewise, we're going to have the same system here. We're going to go and compare the first data with the second data class. And we are going to call integer compare. And then the second data class, we're going to get the category. We want to compare it. And we're going to compare it with the first one. There we go. Why it is not working? It says list player data. Okay, yeah, just a small mistake. There we go. Now it works. Should be replaced by list sort, maybe, probably. Okay, yeah, but the question is it gonna work down to Java 8? Yeah, it is, since Java 8. Okay, yeah, we can do that. So we're gonna sort it, and so what I'm doing here, I'm simply calling player data, and then I'm calling the get method to get what we need to compare by the category, and comparing it with the second item from the second thing in the list. And Java will sort the list automatically according to this method, according to the given category key. So it's pretty much done for you. And we also need, obviously, a way to get the player data. Look up data from the offline player. And we're gonna get the data, assuming it exists, by the player's unique ID. But in case it doesn't exist, we're gonna create it. New player data and then player get name. And also we can then put it into the map. So it is there, it is saved in the memory. And then we can just return it. And that's it. And then what we can do, we can maybe also have a static player data from method, and then we can turn this into a private one. That's gonna get the instance, and then look up data. So it's just a little bit easier to get it. And now what we can do, we can just get this here, go down, and goodbye, and get rid of all the other code. That's it. It's much cleaner. And I typically put my classes at the bottom of the class file. Okay, that's it. Now it's time to go and fix the other classes. Let me just check the time. 23 minutes in. So I do think we can fix at least listener, and then placeholders maybe. And in the next video, I'll talk about menus. So in listener, let's just make the class final. Here, if you actually put this public, paper spigot is gonna take, and it's gonna make some performance optimizations to this method. So that's what I heard. Not sure if it's still relevant at the time you're watching this video, but at the time I'm recording this video, it is a little bit relevant. Not a little bit. You will get a tiny increase in performance if you make your listeners public. First of all, you don't have to check if the player is not null, because it is only fired for players that exist. So you don't have to. And then, yeah, on player join, we are creating a new player data, so we don't have to. We can get rid of this, actually. We don't have to. All we are interested in is the player def. So let me go into my reference code on the other screen, and what we can do here, we can actually just get the player data. Going into statistics and then getting it from the player. Offline player implements offline player, so you're able to call that method for both offline and online players, which is pretty cool. And then what we can do first here, I don't care what's down here because it's pretty inefficient. The original author is calling the code, the same code twice, so we can just improve this. So what we need to do, we need to add a def here, and we also need to reset kill streak. If the player dies, obviously we need to reset his history of how many kills he did until he was killed. And then we can get the killer. And yes, if the killer is not null, that code is correct. We need to get the killer data. And here, so a couple of mistakes. This variable is poorly named. It should be killer UUID. Or maybe with one less U, but whatever. And then equals, you can only use this for primitive types. You can only use this for booleans, integers, floats, and stuff like that. For cars, you can use it, but not for classes. For classes, you must actually use equals. Otherwise, this will not work. So, if the killer is not null and the killer is not the player, we're going to ignore suicide. What we need to actually do, we need to reset the kill streak, which we did, and then we need to add def and add kill. Okay, so we're going to go into killer data, and we're going to add kills for the killer and also kill streak for the killer, and we can get rid of this code here in its fullest. And down here, this has to do with inventories. We can actually get rid of it because Foundation doesn't need any extra support for inventories. Everything is done in the other class that I'm going to show you after this video. And it's time to finish off with placeholders. So I already made this adjustment and I already placed this here. What we can do, you can actually just check if the sender is player, and then we can do things here. We can get his data from the sender because we know he is a player. We can get the category using the same approach as I shown you earlier, lookup enum silent. And this time I'm gonna go with silent because I don't want errors. If the enum, if I put the variable to be something like this, I don't want my plugin to throw errors. I'm gonna put the category down here and then the identifier, and I'm gonna make it uppercase so it is working for all the values, because the optimization should only work for, yeah, it should only work for lookup enum. You can see there's a bunch of optimization down here so that it works for old micro versions. We also try to uppercase the name, replace spaces with underscores. The problem is it doesn't happen with silent, so we have to do it ourselves. And now I don't need to get it 4 times. All I have to do is I need to get it 1, 2, and 3 times, and then maybe here I need to do some custom handling because that's a float. So if the category is if the category is not null, then we can just get it. Otherwise we'll return null. And that's, now we have killed 3 of those with just 1 line of code. How easy it is. I hope you guys are catching up. This is not a beginner-friendly training per se, although it will help beginners as well, but you must know how to code plugins. So it is beginner-friendly if you know how to code plugins. If that syntax is not familiar for you, then you have another problem because you don't understand Java. We actually do have a course. If you go to mineacademy.org, you can actually learn more on getting your Java basics right and learning how to code plugins using simpler approaches at the beginning. It's a very slow-based course, both for beginners and intermediates, so you can just go to mineacademy.org and learn more that way. So now we are going to dynamically check for category from the identifier. So I can type kills, kills, defs, or kill underscore streak, or top kill streak, to automatically get the number. Or if ktd equals to the identifier, we're going to return the KTD, public double calc. Yeah, I'm just gonna change this to get. And then it also wants the UUID, which is unused. We can get rid of it. And then this one is double, so we can actually get this as a string using math util, format 2 digits. And it's gonna convert, for example, this one into 1.42. So it looks very nice. And now we can get rid of everything else, including this one. There we go. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to cut off this video right now because we've spent more than half an hour, and we're going to finish off the training in the next video where I will improve the quality of menus. As you can see here, the guy is creating menus manually, and then he's putting items manually, and he's doing a bunch of manual work here, which is totally unnecessary. And here you can see the repetition here is just crazy. There's a lot of repetitive code. We don't have to do it. I'm gonna show you an easier way, fully automated one with Foundation. So I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.